Hi guys. It is December 31st, 2021. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm here to do my WIP Parade. It took me a ridiculous amount of time to get all this stuff together. And it turns out I still don't know where one of my whips is. One of them I'm gonna have to show you on my phone because I don't know where it is. Um, yeah, I don't know. So I have them here. I have them in some in alphabetical order, some in chronological order. If you've been watching me for a while, you know that I have two whip lists. One is everything that I had going as of January 1st, 2012, which was 10 years ago, which is insane. And and those are in alphabetical order. And then one of everything that I started and haven't finished after that. Uh, and those are in chronological ish order. Um, so I'm going to try to give you the details about fabric and designer, and I'll probably have to show you the model pictures on my phone because I don't have them all with me. And um, my friends are talking about the death of Betty White here, um, which was unfortunately today. I was watching the coverage of it right before I started filming, um, and that's why I keep looking at my phone. Um, and so I'm gonna have to probably show you the model pictures on my phone because I didn't go through and find all the pictures. Um, and I'm gonna try to show you my project bags. I was watching Belinda Aussie Stitcher yesterday, and she was showing her project bags, and I know in my videos I'll do that like for the first two or three whips, and then I'll forget about it. But I'm gonna try to show them to you. I can tell you right now, almost all of them came from Goron. A couple of them came from Stitch and Button or came from Nell, but almost all of them came from Goron. So, uh, here we go. Um, we're gonna start. These are in alphabetical order. These are my 2012 list whips, and I'm going to pull up my. I have a folder of pictures on my phone with all of my whips, the cover pictures of all of my whips. So the first one is my phone needs to be fed. The first one is let's see if this works. Bagatelle by Long Dog Samplers. And since we are at New Year's Eve and tomorrow is 2022, I will try to tell you if I have any plans for this for next year. So this is my project bag for this one. This came from Nell, a little Yellow House Crafts. It's patriotic. It's got the blue and white polka dot there, and the red and white stars on the inside. No, I don't think is making bags anymore. She had gone away for a couple of years. She came back. She did one or two more batches of bags. I don't think she's making bags anymore. This is started in 2004. I think this is on Amsterdam Blue. Um, and this is where I am on it. I don't have a lot done. That's all I have done on it. I'm trying not to unfold the whole thing, but because there's nothing else to see, that's all that's on there. It's 200 stitches. Um, yeah. Um, this I struggle with this one. Um, I'm not crazy about the fabric, honestly. The color is fantastic. It's the feel of the fabric. I think it's Joblin or something. I don't know what it is, but I'm not really a fan. Um, I like the color. Um, so I'm not sure if I want to restart it or if I'm gonna. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So this one sits here because I struggle. And so that's Megatel. And I've also been making life difficult for myself on this front because I've sort of made a rule that I can't start another long dog until I do something with this one, which is a self-imposed rule, and I might give it up. Put these. This is going to be a mess. Okay, so the next one I have here is Eeyore. This is a kit from Janlin. This one, this is another one. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. This is on a random piece of blue fabric. It's on a scrap that I had in my stash. That's all I've done on it. Um, it was it was kind of a joke for a friend, a gift, but I don't think she appreciated it. So I don't know. This one kind of sits there. Um, I'll probably pick it up and do it someday. It would be a good work project. It's cute. I like it. Like I don't dislike it, but I'm not like dying to stitch it either. So this one will probably continue to sit for a while. The next one is a Teresa Winslower. This is the Enchanter by Teresa Winslower. This is discontinued because she discontinued all of her dragons. Back in the TWBB days, we referred to him as Harry Potter. This is a kit, and I'm just using the kit fabric. It's a light blue, even weave, and this is where I am on it. So that's the regular stool he's sitting on in the carpet. This is part of the dragon. Oh, Eeyore, let me tell you. Eeyore is just this is a plastic food storage container that I got somewhere. Um, Enchanter is in my parakeet bag from Goron. Cotton bags. The next one is Genie's Blue Glass. This is by the Silver Lining. Mark Sastad, Silver Lining. I think these are all out of print. Um, the website is still up, and I kind of think that if you contact Mark, you can get them. I'm not entirely sure about that. And I also see them come up a lot on the secondhand market, on the stash and loan groups. You could probably find them on eBay, but I see them come up a lot on the secondhand market. And this is just on a piece of plain white, even weave. And oh no, it's got a stain on it. That's not good. Um, and this is where I am on it. So I haven't done. I've done some. I haven't done a ton. It's over one. I should have brought like a board or something to put behind these. But it's over one, and this is a maybe for next year. I do not know if I'm going to bring this up next year. This, sorry, Belinda, this isn't a plastic Ziploc bag. It has not made its way to a project bag yet. Um, this is a current WIP. Oh, do I have a picture of it in here? Yeah. This is a current WIP that I've been working on. I worked on it the other night, in fact. Um, and this is an old EGA Guild project. Um, I've told this story before. When I was in the EGA, our chapter would have an event. It was either the weekend of Super Bowl or the weekend before Super Bowl, called the Super Bowl of Stitches, and they would have a teacher come and teach it's an all-day event. Teacher would come and teach a project. They'd have lunch. They'd have a raffle. They'd have door prizes. It was a good time. And this is one of those projects. One of our teachers that we use often in our chapter is Margaret Bendig, and this is uh, this project. It's a needle book, and this is a frame weight and a scissor fob. I'll probably make this into a pin cushion because I am not a needle pointer. I'm a cross stitcher, and I don't really have any use for frame weight. So uh, there's that, and this is in a stitch and button bag. There's my foxes and owls, and this is one of those projects that every year when I was making my plans, I said, I'm going to bring this out this year, I'm going to bring this out this year. I did that for a good 4 or 5 years. I'm going to bring out Margaret Bendig, I'm going to bring out Margaret Bendig. Um, that's what I call it. I have two, and I call them both Margaret Bendig. This one is actually called Renaissance. Um, I call it Margaret Bendig. But this is my progress on it. So I'm working on the needle book, working my way down the band sampler. I put the year in it. I put 2022 in it, so I gotta finish it next year. I committed, so I gotta finish it. It's not that difficult of a project. It's not that big. It goes fast. So, and it's stitched with NPI, so who's gonna complain about stitching with silk? This is an old. Um, yikes! This is an old project, and you're not gonna be able to see it very well. Honestly, you're not. Um, I know I told this story in my last WIP parade at the very least, which I didn't realize this. So I was on Virtual Stitchers a few weeks ago, and some of the girls on Virtual Stitchers was like, when are you gonna do a WIP parade, Laurel? Like, everybody's doing WIP parades, and I haven't seen one from you in forever. And I'm like, I just did one. And I went back. It was in 2019. So uh, at the beginning of 2019, I went back and watched it, and there's been quite a few changes. I finished several of those projects. I've started some other projects. So there's some good, there's quite a difference between this one and that one. Um, this is an old project there used to be a model of it in my needlework shop that doesn't exist anymore. But I always admired it, and finally one day I asked the owner, what project is that? And she told me it's Kimono by Donna Gallagher. It's from 1990. And this is the cover. The one that I'm doing, and you're not going to be able to see it very well, I know you're not, is this one right here. That one. It's got like the bonsai trees, and it's got a crane on it, and I just always thought it was really pretty. So uh, every time I went in there, I was like, that's really pretty. And so it took me a while. I finally found the chart on eBay. Donna Gallagher passed away quite a while ago. Um, so it took me a while to find it, but I finally found it on eBay. And I think this was my birthday start one year, maybe like in 2011 or 2009. Um, This bag, let's talk about the project bag. This is also from Stitch and Button. It's got birds and vines, and there's vinyl front. And this is also apparently just on a piece of white even weave that I had in my stash. I went through recently looking to assign start dates or approximate start dates to all of my WIPs, and this is the one I went. One of the things I did is I went through the old bulletin board posts, and this is one of the ones I was able to find the start date for by looking at old bulletin board posts. And this is all I have on this one. I just started the bottom of the kimono, the middle and the bottom. Um, and I put it away. I think I just got tired of the straight lines. This is a possibility for next year. This is something that's on my radar for next year. And to some extent, on some of these, um, the fact that it's in a project bag and not in a Ziploc bag means it was on the radar at some point. It was on the radar enough that I put it in a project bag and took it out of the Ziploc bag. So if it's still in a Ziploc bag, that generally means that it has not been on the radar to be worked on. And there are very few of those at this point. Genie's Blue Glass is one of the few that has not been moved. This project is also an old guild project. I don't have a picture. It was a mystery. Um, I know I have two parts. I think I have all three parts. I'm going to have to look for the third part. I honestly don't know that I'm ever going to finish this. I have the threads. I'm pretty sure I have all the instructions. But I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to finish this. But this is Mystery with a Little Glitz by Ann Rogers. And this is part of part one. And that's all I've done on it. And this is from 2002 or 2001 or something. This is an old project. And I honestly don't know that I'll ever finish it. Y'all might be aware that I'm a cross stitcher, not really a needle pointer, and I don't know. This project, this is going to work with me on Monday. Unfortunately, my vacation is over and I gotta go back to work on Monday. This is my oldest WIP. So, if you watched my last WIP update from last week, you saw this. Oh, no, you didn't see this. You saw that I finished my previous oldest WIP, my Victorian Village. If you haven't watched my video from last week, go watch it. So I finished Victorian Village, and so now this is my oldest WIP. And this is Retrievers by Jan Lynn. This is my last remaining piece on Ada. And I have a hard time with this piece, and I don't know why. I tried to work on it at the end of last year, right before No New Starts was getting started. I needed to pull it out, and I needed to put some stitches on it to bring it up to 200, because that was the requirement. You had to have 200 stitches to make it a WIP. I had to do some stitching on it to bring it up to 200, and it like killed my stitchy bug. At least I'm blaming it on that. I'm not sure what happened, but I think that had something to do with it. I don't know what my problem is with this piece. It could be the Ada. I don't think so. I had other projects on Ada. I've stitched on Ada. I don't choose it, but I don't I won't refuse it if it's there. This is the project bag, dogs. This is also by Goron Totten. Appropriate for this piece. This is going to be my work project starting on Monday. And every time I say that, Vicky Hartwell at Reading and Stitching gets very excited. But there's my 200 stitches on it. It sort of looks like a Chinese character, but that's all I've done on it. I don't know what my problem with this project is. I think it might partly be the charting. But I'm going to take it to work, and, it's 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week. I can deal with that. I can do that, and we're going to try to make some progress on it. There's the inside of the bag. It's adorable. I put this on my WIP Go board for next year for 5,000 stitches, because if I figure if I stitch on it 2 or 3 times a week, that's about 100 stitches a week, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But, after 52 weeks, 5,000 stitches is a decent goal. I should have, 100 stitches for a week for 50 weeks is 5,000 stitches. So, there's retrievers. This is a Mira. I've got 4 Miras. Well, I got 3 Miras and a Nora. But this is my second oldest Mira. Which, speaking of reading and stitching, Vicky, I've been begging her to stitch this with me, so I think I'm going to pick this up next year. This is Savannah's Curtsy. And, this is in a box. This is one of those document cases that you get from the Container Store, from Staples, or wherever. And maybe I'll move it to a project bag someday. I don't know. Oh, look, here's a picture. There she is. Savannah's Curtsy. This project, the problem that I have with this project is all of the white in the skirt. Just intimidates me. So I can see. So that's what I have on her. Her face and her arm, the start of her dress, a little bit of her sleeve. So, I guess intimidate isn't the right word. It's, oh, I have the word on my tip of my tongue. It doesn't intimidate me. It's kind of daunting. That's the word I'm looking for. It's daunting. All that white, her skirt. And of course, I'm stitching it on white fabric, which was not smart. 0 stars, do not recommend. This is the other project that's also named Margaret Bendig. This was also a Super Bowl of Stitches project. This is called Stitches Kit, and it's a Margaret gave us these plastic containers. It is the outside, and then you can finish it into. It's like a little accessory pouch that has little pockets for your needles and your scissors and your little gadgets and stuff. So that's that. This is on the radar for later this year after I finish the other one. And this is all I've done on it. The other one is stitched in cotton, or in silk, but I think this one is stitched in cotton. That's all I've done on it. I think I put a few stitches in it at the end of last year to bring it up to 200. But other than that, I worked on it the day of the event, that's it. But when I finish the other one, this one will come out next. Wenzler also discontinued, so it is on the radar. You can find it on the secondhand market. Some people are charging out of print prices for it. Alright, this next one is another Teresa Winslower. And this is also being stitched to stop plain white. I haven't worked on this in years. Storyteller since the London Olympics. That's the last time I worked on this, was the London Olympics. In 2012. It's been 10 years. But that's what I have so far. I was learning to park on this piece, and oh my gosh, it makes a difference. Like that wing. Yeah. The 10 by 10 blocks parking helps a lot. The confetti on this is painful. Helps a lot. And this is another one. It hasn't quite made it to a project bag yet. This one is also a Teresa Winslower. This is probably my favorite Teresa Winslower. This is Stroke of Midnight. This one is not discontinued. This one is available on patternsonline.com. You have to download the PC Stitch software in order to use Patterns Online. Doesn't work on a Mac. The key is, if you're on a PC, it also doesn't work on mobile. You have to be on a PC. Who's texting me? It's my brother. So you have to be on a PC. It doesn't work on Mac. It doesn't work on mobile. Download the PC Stitch software. Pull up the thing. Click print and click print to PDF, and it will come up as a PDF file that you can then save and keep on your device or move to your Dropbox or your Google Drive or whatever. The one that I did, I tried to upload one, and it didn't work on Pattern Keeper that well. You can try it. The one that I have, it didn't really work on Pattern Keeper that well, but you can save it as a PDF. Otherwise, you have to go into your Patterns Online account and pull it up or print it out. You can't just save it directly from PC Stitch into your computer, which is annoying. But if you print it to PDF, anyway. This is the Disney Castle bag that I got from Goron. If you watch the Stitch and Button shop, she has this fabric from time to time. I'm in a group where the challenge was the longest since you've worked on it, and this wins that contest. I haven't worked on this since probably 2001 or 2 or 3. It's been a long time. And that's all I've done. This is the planner in the corner. That's it. Annette and Annette's Acre, we started this piece last year or earlier this year, and she's parking on it, and that's what I'm going to do when I get back to it. She's doing like the 10 by 10 stair steps like Jessie Marie, and that's totally what I'm going to do when I get back to this piece. Which I don't know when that will be. Probably not next year. This next one is another Mira. Where is it? How come I don't have it on here? Oh, here it is. This is The Kiss by Mirabilia. This is my oldest Mira. This was my first Mira. This is the first one that I bought, the first one that I started. It was not the first one that I finished, clearly. I don't know if this is going to come out next year. I'm kind of debating between this one and Savannah, but I'm kind of leaning towards Savannah because I have been bugging Vicky about it. So this is where I am on her. I've done their faces. I think I got kind of bored in the roses, but that's where I am. I was also trying out this rotation of 10 hours at a time back in the day. This was one of those pieces, and yeah, that rotation lasted for about 3 pieces, and I was over it. But the thing about a failed rotation is that you learn something. And what I learned from trying that rotation is A, I hate tracking time, and B, like 3 pieces is about the right number of whips for me. I've had to expand that since I've joined the challenge groups, but back before I was doing challenge groups, 3 pieces was perfect. I had 1 at work and I had 2 at home, and it was enough variety to keep me interested, but I still, made a lot of progress on my pieces. It wasn't too much. And this is also in a Ziploc bag. Hasn't quite made it to a project bag yet. This is on my radar for next year. I wasn't sure that it was going to make it to my radar for next year, but it ended up being. I ended up needing it for some challenges that I'm doing, so I ended up putting it on there. This is Dinah's The Trick and the Treat by Parade Moon. Which is available for out of printish prices on the secondhand market. Also available as a fairly expensive PDF on the Parade Moon website. This is 32 count flapper by Pictureless Plus. And this is where I am on it. I started the wrong direction on the fabric, so I've been trying to make my way across the fabric to make sure that it fits. I think I should be okay, but I'm gonna make my way over there just to make sure. This has not gotten any attention for. Honestly, I think I quit working on it a little bit after I realized that it was in the wrong direction. I kind of, I don't know, I got put off. And I haven't picked it up, but I did put it on my list for next year. This also goes in a Goron cotton bag that is here somewhere. I had moved it because I took it to Utah with me, and it hasn't made it back to its own bag yet. This next one is also another Teresa Winslower. What can I say? I'm insane. This is Trade Winds, which I believe is also available on Patterns Online. Back in 2001 and 2, or 2 and 3 or something, a friend and I were stitching along on this together. We would stitch on it every Sunday. It sat for many years, and sometime I think in 2019, maybe 2018, 2019, I picked it up and I started poking at it. And so I've been making a little bit of progress on it. It's in this mermaid bag I got from Goron, which is like beyond perfect. I was using it this year, at the beginning of the year. I was using it for Alpha My Bet in Semi Sane, and I kind of fell off the wagon on that. But I did do some of the letters, and I did some of the mermaid. I discovered 2 mistakes in the mermaid. The first mistake is that my mermaid row is too short because my mermaid block is too short because I had made a mistake up here. There should be one more square here, and so it, you know, caused this to be too short. This is in the wrong place. This is too short, and then I made an additional mistake in here somewhere, and I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do about it. If I'm going to fudge it or if I'm going to pull some of it out and fix it. There's going to be some amount of fudging because I'm short, but I'm not sure how I'm going to fix that yet. So, uh, there's trade winds. This may or may not come out next year. I don't know. I don't know. My issue with next year and some of these pieces, including this one, is the Noni Search 2022 group has a track for 22 and 22 where you get 22 slots and you can only work on pieces that are on that 22 slots. And if you finish one, you can put one in there, but once you put it on there, you can't get it off unless you finish it. So some of these pieces, I'm like, I don't want to put them on there because I know I'm not going to be able to finish them, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I want to commit to it like that. So I'm being kind of careful about what I put on there and what pieces I pull out next year because I know once it's on there, I can't get it off. So, uh, and this next piece is my last 2012 WIP, and it's also my last Teresa Winslower. This is Under the Evergreen by Teresa Winslower. This one is a good beginner one. The confetti is fairly mild. The tree is a little bit painful, but the confetti is fairly mild. There's no fractionals. There's a few blends. It's relatively easy by Teresa Winslower standards. Uh, this is a Cardinal Bag that I got from Goron because Christmas. This one I have not really worked on this year. I put like 200 stitches in it, but it's going to be a focus piece next year. I've learned a lesson with my WIP Go, and instead of putting 4 pages of Under the Evergreen on my WIP Go, which is the whole thing, I put 2 pages. So I've put, here's my progress. That's where I am with it. I've put this page right here where all this blank space is, that's page 1. And then the page under it with the doll is page 3. And those are the 2 pages I put on my WIP Go. I want to finish page 1, and I want to do the border on page 3. And maybe I'll do some of the backstitch. Future Laurel is going to hate me if I don't do some of that backstitch. So that's the plan. I'm going to spend some time on this next year and try to all that blank space at the top there in that little circle is tree and a little bit of the toys. There's a wagon and there's a teddy bear. There's a little bit of toy, but most of this is all tree. And trees always mean confetti. So that is Teresa Winslower. And that's my 2012 list. I started this list with 42 or 44, 45, something, 40 something projects on it in 2012. It's been 10 years. And I've finished a lot of them. I retired a couple of them. I adopted a couple of them. But I'm down to 18. And every year I try to knock a project or 2 off the list. 2019, I knocked 4 projects off the list. This year I knocked 2 projects off. So every year I try to knock a couple of projects off the list. So now we're on to the pieces that I started after 2012, after January 1st, 2012, and still haven't finished. And that's this next little stack right here next to me. So this first one I don't have a cover picture of. It's a little sweetheart tree kit called Snowflakes in the Pines. Or it's a chart called Snowflakes in the Pines. I might restart it. I don't know. I might finish it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But that's what I have so far. If you want to look it up, you can look it up. But it's just a little chart. It's got snowflakes and it's got pine leaves. And it's green and white and brown. And it's one of those little charts. My problem with it is I think this is 32 count fabric. And the pine needles, I'm not really a fan. And I'm thinking maybe they would look better on a little bit bigger count fabric. So, I don't know. It sits there because Laura can't make up her mind what to do with it. Oh, I'm going to jump backwards for a second. Let's jump back to 2012. Remember that I said I was missing a WIP, and I don't know where it is? Let's talk about that WIP. That's this piece here. And I know that Natalie from Knitting Nat Stitches is stitching this. This is from Dimensions Gold Collection Petites. This was gifted to me, back in the day, in 2003. I've barely started it. I'm going to scroll back real quick and try to find my picture of it. Where is my picture of it? I thought I had a picture of it. This is not it. Here it is. This is what I have on it. And I don't know if this is the right way or not. This is the one that I can't find. So that's what I have on it. I started it back in the day. Worked on it 1 or 2 days. Haven't touched it since. It's stitched on a piece of blue, 36 count blue something for my stash. I think it's a hand dyed. Um, it might have been a remnant that I bought. I don't know where I got it. Uh, but the kit came with Ada, and I didn't want to stitch it on Ada, so I put it on that. Okay, and it's in a little unicorn knitting notions bag, and I don't know where it went. This next one is um in a mesh project bag that I got from the Container Store. They're much cheaper on Amazon. The Container Store is like the most expensive place to buy anything. Um, and this is, yeah, this is His Eyes on the Sparrow by Heartstring Samplery. It is a giant piece. I struggle with this piece, honestly. Um, I'm not a fan of the charting, which I solved by going on the website and buying the PDF for Pattern Keeper, and I highly recommend that. Um, but the other part of the problem is I'm stitching it over one on this Picture This Plus fabric, and Picture This Plus fabric is beautiful, but the holes are so small. So I struggle with Picture This Plus. But this is this is where I am. I've just got those few little motifs there. I have a long way to go. This is one of those pieces that I hesitate to put on my list for next year because 22 slots. Once I put it on there, I can't take it off. So I don't know. This next piece was the very first Hade that I started. And at the time I started it, it was a freebie. It's no longer there as a freebie. Uh, you can buy the full piece still on the site, but this version is not available. This is Freebie Story Keep Flower Bride artwork by Linda So. Um, so back in 2014, in the Cross Stitch and Discuss days, um, they were having a Hade sale, and I thought, and I hadn't yet stitched a Hade, and I'm like, I want to try this out, see if I like it, see what it's like. Don't want to spend a lot of money because I don't know if I'm gonna like it. So they had a few freebies available, and so I chose that one. Gotta sneeze again. Um, so this is another bag from the Container Store. They're big bags, not as pretty as the ones I get from Ronnie or from Vicky, but they're big and they hold a lot of thread for big projects. And this project sat at 200 stitches for a good 5-6 years. Um, I think in 2019 or 20, I pulled it out and I put some stitches in it. Um, so I think I'm up to like 11 or 1200 stitches now. And what made me put it down again was this Krynic. Not a fan of Krynic 1/1. But she's a bride, so of course she's sparkly. Somebody said just do a half stitch with the Krynic, you won't be able to tell a difference, and I'm like, perfect. So next time I pick it up, I will do that. She is a maybe for next year. I haven't committed, but I haven't ruled it out. Okay, next piece. This is another Hade. This was my second Hade that I started. Um, and this is very definitely on my radar for next year to finish. This is, you've been seeing this for a while. This is The Littlest Fairy Story Keep by Selena Fennick, charted by Hade. This is a bag that I got from Nell, a Little Yellow House Crafts, who, again, I don't think she makes bags anymore. Um, little project, little bag. So I am about 70% done with her. I think I got about 3,400 stitches left. She's almost done, so I'm gonna finish for this year. Yep, there she is. I think I'm gonna have to. I think I'm gonna do a little bit of frogging on her. Actually, there's a dye lot issue in here, and I could leave it, but honestly, it bugs me. So I think I'm gonna take it out and redo it with the other skein, which is annoying, but I think that's why I haven't been working on hers because that dye lot issue bugs me. This piece was a 2020 start, and I'm happy to say that people have been enabled into this by me or by Alma and Alma's Little Wonders. I enabled Alma. Alma enabled EJ. Um, I enabled Beth Ann, uh, who apparently has plans to start it. I'm not sure when she's going to start it. But this is Three Things sampler by Moira Blackburn. And it says, "Three things there are that will never come back. The arrow shot forth on its destined track, the appointed hour that could not wait, and the hopeful word that was spoken too late." And Project Bag by Goron. This I call my tablecloth. It's huge. She's a big girl. But my goal on her this year was a page finish, and I did it. I finished page 1. So this is kind of, I finished page 1, so there's the first page, and I've got some of the border going all the way down here, but so there's the first page. This is definitely on my list for next year. It's on my 22 and 22. Uh, my goal for WIP Go is 2 pages, and I don't know if that's going to be page 2 and 3 or page 2 and 5, or I don't know which 2 pages. The reason I say 2 and 5, I know that sounds funny, is because page 2 has the first part of the verse on it, and page 5 has the rest of the verse on it. So I might do those 2 pages and do the verse. I kind of want to do the verse all at the same time. I don't know. I actually kind of wanted to do the verse last, but I don't know. But this is definitely on the list for next year. And I was just talking to EJ last night, and she still has plans to. Well, she's got to get the chart, but then she has plans to start it. This is a mirror. This next piece. Um, this is a mirror that I started in 2020 with Natalie and Lisa at Lisa Stitching and Such, and Sarah at our Stitching Kingdom, and Vicky at Stitch and Button started it later, and we're trying to convince Belinda to start it. But this is Silver Moon Tea. Actually, no, that was a fail on Belinda. She said, should I start Silver Moon Tea or should I start this other one? And we all kind of voted for the other one, so we'll have to get Belinda another time. And so here's my project bag, pastries bag from Goron Cotton. I worked on this year. I started this in 2020. I worked on it earlier this year for a few months, and then I ran out of steam on it. I was using it for the yearly challenge in the zombie run in daily 30. Um, there's where I got to, but every time it would come up, like because the rule for the yearly was you had to touch all four of your whips every month, and every time this would come up, I'd be like, ugh. So I finally switched it out, and I put it away, and I haven't stitched on it since, but it'll come out eventually. Maybe next year. It's not on my list yet, but maybe I'll work on it next year. I'm honestly a little more interested in pulling out the other two that I have, the Kiss and Savannah, because they're old and they're bigger, and I kind of want to finish one or at least one of them because there's a lot of mirrors that I want to stitch. So I'm like, let me finish one of these bigger ones so I can add another bigger one. This is also on the radar for next year. This is Temperature Tree by Stitch and Mommy. Some friends and I are doing a challenge where we divided it. We took a whip and we divided it into 12 parts, and we're gonna stitch one part every month, and theoretically by the end of the year we'll have it finished. And this is the one that I chose for that because um, it's a tree with 12 branches for the months of the year, and hello, 12 months. So I did a little bit of work on the tree this week. I still got to do the bottom of the base of the tree here. But, so. And the fabric is Elsa by Valkyrie Stitchworks, Cat Jones, Valkyrie Stitchworks. Oh, I forgot to say, the fabric on Silver Moon Tea is just a random neutral that I had in my stash. I have the called for fabric, the lavender mist, or whatever it's called, violet mist, something, whatever the called for fabric is. But it's a Wishelt fabric, and it's like cardboard. And if I was stitching in a frame, maybe it would be okay. I stitch in hand, and it was not pleasant. And Silver Moon Tea is full coverage anyway, so the fabric choice isn't really that big of a deal because it's full coverage. So I found a neutral that I had in my stash, and it's fine. Oh, and this is my Dragonfly from Goron, my Dragonfly bag. And the inside is very pretty too. It's like a purple rose, tone on tone rose pattern. Very pretty. This is my last Cade. And this one, it's gorgeous, but I'm on a struggle bus with it. Um, this is Dark Waters by Jessica Elaine, started by Hade. Gorgeous. I started it in 2020. I put 500 stitches in it. Haven't touched it. And I think it's partly the size, it's partly the over one, it's partly the confetti. You know, a lot of my friends are big full coverage stitchers. If you watch Carla Pagan at Craft Addict K, or you watch Beth Ann at Stitching by Twilight, or my friend Laura, you know, a lot of my friends are big full coverage stitchers. I'm not quite there. I'm kind of on the fence about full coverage. I don't hate it, but I don't know that I love it. I don't know that I want 45 Hades. I have 3, and I'm good with that. Like, 3 is fine. A couple of my Teresa Winslowers are full coverage too, and I'm good with that. That's why I'm like, I'm not starting Hazel until I finish the fairy. I'm not starting all the Hades. I've slowed down. I try not to buy too many anymore either because I don't really know that I like. I don't know that I like full coverage. So I struggle. But there's my 500 stitches on dark water. This is 25 count, easy grid Ada. Um, and there's my 500 stitches. Try not to be too impressed. Actually, I think it goes like this. Yeah, it goes like that. So this is another one that I'm reluctant to put on my 22 and 22 for next year because, yeah, I haven't worked on it and I don't want it to be taking up a slot on my list if I'm not going to work on it. This is my manatee bag that I got from Goron. There's the inside. Love that bag. I canceled my membership in their bag of the month. I did it for a year and a half. I have more project bags than I will ever have projects. I have a ridiculous number of project bags because I've been getting the bag of the month for a year and a half. I've been buying from their sales. I was buying from their sales before. I've been buying from Vicky. I still buy here and there from Vicky. I don't need any more project bags. And so I canceled. It was very sad, but it was time to let it go. This um and they just mailed out the January bag of the month and it's going to be posted in a few days. And I know when I see it, I'm going to be sad that I didn't get it, but I will survive. I really will. I'll complain, but I'll survive. So this was my birthday start in 2020. This is Joy the Journey by Leisure Arts. It's available in PDF from the Leisure Arts website. Um, it's also available in several formats in print by Leisure Arts. I think it's in a book and it's in a little chart pack, and I have it in a little chart pack. And Natalie at Knitting at Stitches is stitching it, and I think I saw somebody else with it. I think maybe Carla has it, or somebody. There was somebody where I was like, or maybe I saw somebody in the No New Starts group, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you were stitching that. I don't know who it was though. But this is where I am on it. For being a birthday start, it hasn't really gotten a whole lot of attention. I've got stitches on it this year. Um, and it's on the radar for next year. It hasn't made it to the list yet, but it's a possibility. I don't know. This is the Spring Quakers bag from Goron. Um, Last year they were doing stitch-alongs for all of the seasonal Quakers from Rosewood Manor, and Ronnie did a bag for each one, and so this was or maybe this was summer. This was either spring or summer. I think this was spring, um, for their stitch-along. I am not in the stitch-along, but I bought the bag because it's pretty. We're almost done here, people. This was a new start in 2020. Um, I did the daffodil egg during the political conventions in 2020, and I finished that one. So I started this one. I didn't do it this year. I didn't finish it this year because I didn't put it on my no new starts list because I didn't have the time or the energy to get 200 stitches in it, and I kind of felt like by the time I got 200 stitches in it, it would be finished, so I didn't really see the point, but that's what I did on it. I don't know which way it goes. I don't know if it goes this way or if it goes that way. I don't know, but there is where I am. But this is gonna be a quick finish for 2022. I did, you know, I do have it on my list for 2022, and this will be a quick finish. Oh, actually, I have another whip that I didn't find, and I don't even know if I have a picture of it to show you, honestly. Um, this is the Sweetheart Tree design, American Heritage. I have the heart done. I think the outside heart. I think I have the words United States of America. I think I have the 2 cross stitch hearts done as flags. I just gotta add a bunch of the back stitching and the little curly cues and the beads, and it's not really that far from a finish. I just have to do it. Well, I have to find it, and then I have to do it. I have it here somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I'll find it, and that'll be another finish for next year. This is my Nora. This was a project that I started for Stitch and Button Vicky's birthday last year, 2020. Um, Poppy by Nora Corbett. This is another one that was in a project bag, and I took it out of the project bag to take it to Utah, and it hasn't quite made its way back into the project bag. But this is where I am on it. And this one might become a restart because I'm not entirely sure about the fabric. Um, I put it up on Virtual Stitchers, and I put up several fabrics when I was starting this, and this is the one that they chose, but I'm not entirely convinced. So, uh, I'm not sure what's going to happen to this. It might become a restart. There's a spot here, like it might, maybe got some water on it. Um, and this is another one. I don't know if it's going to end up on the list for 2020. Um, I don't know. This, I've told this story several times, so I'll tell you the short version here. If you watch me, you've heard this story several times. This is the one that I bought for Zeb. This is Moon Garden by Blackbird Designs. I'm stitching it before I send it to Zeb. Um, this has this is definitely a focus for next year, and I'm sure you guys must have this experience. And I have this experience on every piece, and I kind of hit that point on this piece this past week where you're stitching and you're stitching and you're stitching, and then there's that point where you can kind of see the end come into sight, where you're like, it's like you've been going up, and then you see like, oh, now it's downhill. I got to that point on this where I felt like, you know what, I could finish this. Um, I saw the end come into sight. So this is where I am on it. I've stitched almost everything that's attached to the flower. All the leaves and the birds and everything that's attached to the flower has been stitched, except I gotta fill in a little bit of pink right here, and I did the middle, I did the center of this leaf, and I gotta do the outside of the leaf. And then all that's left is the lettering, the title, the border, and a couple of little motifs. There's like some flowers motifs that go around the border. But so I'm like, I can see the end of this in sight. So stay tuned, Zeb. The New Starts group is having a year-long event, and one of the tasks is 2,000 stitches. And I think I started on this piece. I started my stitching on this piece, and I think I might just stay on this uh, for the rest of the stitches. The rule was you could change WIPs this year, but next year, which is tomorrow, you can only use one WIP. And I'm kind of debating if I'm going to do it on this or if I'm going to do it online as a trick or treat. But I think I might just stay on this because if I do 2,000 stitches on this, that would get it like I don't know that it would finish it, but it would get it pretty darn close. So um, I think I might just stay on this. I worry a little bit about burning out, and I also worry about some of my other challenges for the year, or for the month of January, to do that and this together, which is not on that does not apply to those challenges. That's that's a big ask of me. Some of you could do it with, you know, a lot of my friends could do it without looking to, or without blinking. That's a big ask for me. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but we'll see. Um, this bag is from Goron. This was the second bag that I got in my bag of the month when I started subscribing to the bag of the month, and it's gorgeous. I love this bag, and it's got the music note fabric inside. So this is obviously very clearly on the radar for next year. It's on the list. It was the second thing to go on the list behind the fairy. This is my last WIP. This was the last thing that I started last year before No New Start started. That's what I was doing on this day last year, is I was starting making, what am I trying to say? I was trying to make sure I started all of the pieces that I wanted to get into No New Starts. I still had two that I didn't get to, and they're still sitting over here, and um, they might be starts this year. Um, I don't know. I have this whole long list of starts for 2022. I didn't start anything in 2021 because no new starts. I didn't start anything. Tomorrow I get to start a project. I'm so excited. I'm really ready for it to be over. Um, the official No New Starts challenge is over. Um, but I was doing a challenge with some friends, and that challenge is going to, last until today. So even though the official one that they were doing is over 2 weeks ago, I'm still doing no new starts until tomorrow. So, um, this is the last thing that I started in 2020 to get into the challenge. This is A Stitch for Sweet Freedom by Lindy Stitches. This is also on the radar for next year. When I finish Moon Garden, this is going to go in its place. And this is where I am on it. So, I've done all of the words, and I did the embroidery hoop at the top, and the threads. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I started on her flag right here, on the flag that she's holding. I did some of the white stitches right here. I don't think you can barely see that on camera, but they're there. So this will replace Moon Garden on my list. And I'll show you the bag. This is also a Goron bag, patriotic, and the inside is stars. So, and that's all my WIPs. That's I think that's 31 or 2. And I think there's actually one more. I think there's one of those Alice Peterson eyeglass cases um, with the needlepoint front and the felt back. I have one of those somewhere that I had included in. It's on my list, and I included it in my previous WIP Parade. I didn't look for it today. I didn't find it. I don't know where it is. But um, so that's my WIP Parade. Um, I'm going to do. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it now because I have all my stuff out. I'm going to do a 2021 wrap up and a 2022 plans um, video. So look for that. And um, happy 2022, everyone. Happy New Year. And I look forward to another year of FlossTube and another year of stitching and challenges and Facebook community. And I will see you all next year. Bye.